Hey everyone, Michelle Alexandria here, coming at you live from Las Vegas for CinemaCon. I think you all know. You all know what's up. And it is Tuesday, day 2 of CinemaCon. I did not do a video last night of Sony's presentation for two reasons. One, it was frankly kind of a terrible presentation. And two, I actually went over to the Sphere last night to see U2's concert film for their last Sphere performance. And oh my god, it was stunning. It was so good. It was like I was actually at a U2 concert. And it was just, wow. It was just, the Sphere is brilliant. I mean, when you go in, and this shouldn't be about me reviewing the Sphere. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that experience. But wow, it was just incredible, and I'm still kind of reeling from how amazing that entire experience was, and how much it felt like I went to the YouTube performance at the Sphere, because it was the thing that made it so amazing was the fact that the audio in that building was stunning, and they really did a great job on the audio mix, because they mixed in all the crowd noises and everything. So it felt like you were actually at that concert, and with that 360-degree screen, you you would be hard pressed not to know that. Like, if you didn't know, you would think you were at a YouTube concert. It was wow. It was just wow. So today I'm going to talk about two presentations and a surprise presentation. So yesterday was the Sony presentation, and like I said, I don't have much to say about that presentation because it was so boring, and it was in today's presentation was actually pretty boring and pretty long as well. But there were a few highlights. I will say right off the bat that the people at CinemaCon, they're crazy with security. You can't do anything at CinemaCon this week, so I had to rely a lot on memory when I do these recaps. So they're going to be even worse than they normally are. So anyway, let's get into Sony. The MC for tonight's Sony event was the CEO Tom Rothman, and one of the problems with these presentations is they bring out all of these different presidents in these companies, and it's like the president of distribution, the CEO of distribution, the CEO of marketing, and the president of domestic, and the president of international. And you're like, enough already. Get one person to do this. So I think last night, if I remember correctly, Tom Rothman, who was formerly at Fox, and the guy I normally like, who normally does a pretty good presentation. This year, I didn't think he did a great job because, frankly, let's face it, Sony doesn't have anything to show, and it's kind of like, why even show up for CinemaCon? So they didn't have much to show last night that was like really like exciting. But the highlights is the presentation started off with 28 Days Later. Danny Boyle came out there and they talked a little bit about 28 days. He talked about 28 Days Later. There's going to be a part 2 to 28 Days Later called 28 Days Later, The Bone Crusher. And then he brought out the director of The Bone Crusher. I forgot. I don't know what her name is. It's Nicholas something. But she's black. I give her props, and she's actually the one who directed The Marvels, which I think was a criminally underrated movie. It wasn't a movie that was going to set the world on fire, but I enjoyed it for what it was. It's not a movie I have any much interest in seeing again, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. I just think these days, the Disney hate is real, and the Disney hate is ridiculous. Because despite all the Disney hate, they still were the number one box office. They won the box office last year again for like how many years in a row now. They earned over $5.5 billion or something. And I'm like, so much for all that much vaunted Disney hate and everything else. So I'm trying to look it up to find the director of The Marvels. In IMDb, IMDb broke themselves. So IMDb is really like useless now. Oh, Nia DaCosta. Nia DaCosta directed the Marvels, and she also directed 28 Days Later Part 2, the Bone Crusher movie that's coming out. And Danny Boyle had a lot of passion for the movie. He talked a little bit about the long 28-year journey between movies, and that they filmed these two movies together, but they have a plan for a third one, and it's up to us. It's up to the theater exhibitors to support this movie and all this other stuff. But they show footage of it. The footage looked really good, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at my computer. But for like the next couple of movies, but yeah, the footage looked really good. I never actually sat down and watched 28 Days Later, so maybe I'll do that one day. And I've actually met and interviewed Darren, Danny Boyle a few times. He's actually in my book that I put out years ago. Um, so yeah, I want to see this movie now, and I'm not a huge fan of zombie movies, which is one of the reasons why I never watched the first one. But it was good. I liked it. It was good. Then and then Darren Aronofsky, and I'm not going particularly in order. I'm just going by my memory. But Darren Aronofsky came out to talk about his new movie, Court Stealing, and he talked about how he grew up in New York City and he really wanted to make just a fun movie for a change. Court Stealing, Court Stealing is set in a time period that where New York was alive and vibrant before 2000, before the World Trade Center bombings and everything else. There's a lot of hope in the world. So the movie is set in the 90s, and it features a stacked cast. It's like Matt Smith, it's my man Matt Smith, my man Austin Butler, Zoe Kravitz, Vincent D'Onofrio, and a couple of other people. I think Vince Vaughn is in this, and it's weird. Someone else described it as Snatch meets Quentin Tarantino, or or Snatch meets a Quentin Tarantino movie, and it's a really fun movie because in it basically Austin Butler it plays a character who gets tangled up with Matt Smith over a $4 million deal, and Matt Smith wants to steal the money because apparently they're like trafficking money or laundering money or transporting money for all the various mobs in New York City, including the Jewish mob and the Italian mob and several other mobs. And basically, Matt Smith decides he wants to steal the money, but somehow because Austin Butler's character is staying in Matt Smith's house, they make him responsible for it. So it's a whole thing. The movie looks really good, and I am not a fan of Aronofsky. I think he's pretentious. I think his movies are boring, and they put me to sleep. I don't like his movies at all. But this one looks like it's right up my alley, and I'm really looking forward to it. So that's called Court Stealing. It's coming out later this year. Then they did this weird thing with Resident Evil where they brought out the director of Resident Evil, and you're like, ooh, we're going to get some news on Resident Evil. Now, me, personally, I love the Paul Anderson Resident Evil movies. I love those movies to death. And I love Mila Jovovich in that role, in that franchise. I've seen every one. I thought they were great and fantastic movies for what they were. Again, I don't understand the hate some movies get. It seems like a movie has to be life-changing before people consider it as good. A movie can't just be good anymore. A movie can't just be there to entertain you. No, it has to be some kind of life-changing event, and if one thing's wrong, the entire thing sucks. But I love the Resident Evil franchise. I actually just binge-watched them again, like last year. So I don't really feel a need to have a new Resident Evil movie. But yeah, they brought out the director, and all he said was, "Hey, as a gamer who loves the Resident Evil movies, we're doing this new reboot of the franchise. It's going to be dark and really along the lines of the game, and blah blah." And he spoke for about a minute, and he's like, "And next year we'll have some footage for you. Bye." And I was sitting there thinking, why Why? Why is he there? And a couple of big surprises for me, because I would have bet my money they wouldn't talk about Spider-Man last night because they don't have anything to talk about. But they did do two Spider-Man and big Spider-Man announcements. They did Spider-Man Brand New Day, and they had the producer Peter Miller, Peter Lloyd. Here, let me look that up. Spider-Man. Let me look it up. Spider-Man across the universe, across the Spider-Verse, and I'm just trying to see who the producers are. It's Peter something. Phil Lord. So Phil Lord came out, and along with the two directors, they came out and talked a little bit about Spider-Man across the universe, beyond the universe. It's gonna actually take. It's gonna pick up right from where the last film left off. So that's good. It's gonna pick up right from where the last film left off. They did the same spiel about how they're going to be doing all this groundbreaking animation and blah blah, and how they really wanted to take their time to do it right. Well, we all know it's because they've horribly mismanaged this, and the animation crew pretty much walked off the job, and all this other. There's a lot of behind the scenes drama with this movie. But they tried to couch it as, oh, we're doing it because we really want to do innovative stuff with the animation, and we really want to make it great. And you're like, okay, whatever, give us the date. And the date's like June 2027. And at that point, I'm like, why are you here? Why are you here? Don't tell me about a movie that's coming out 2 and 3 years from now. Especially when the movie was supposed to come out 3 years ago. Now we gotta wait basically 5 years between part 2 and part 3. This is one of the reasons why I hate these artificial franchises. Give me a movie with a clear beginning, middle, end. If the movie's good, then greenlight the sequel and give me the sequel. Don't give me this nonsense where we're just going to split the movie and we're just going to end it right here, and we're going to end it on a massive cliffhanger, and you'll get the new part sometime in our near future. It's like movies have become glorified TV shows, and I'm kind of sick of it at this point. I really am tired of it. So yeah, Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming out in June or July in 2027. But we did get some footage. We did. And surprisingly enough, we did get about a 3 or 4 minute highlight clip that was supposed to be in a new animation, but I didn't see where it was anything special. And like most of the clip, 98% of the clip was actually old footage. You know, stuff from like the last movie, kind of strung together in like a scissor reel. So I don't really have much to say about it. It looked great. It looked good. But I just find it hard to get excited about a movie that's already been delayed for 3 years, and we still got to wait another 2 years. So I'm like, I don't care anymore. Then after that, they came out and talked about the next Spider-Man movie. I was like, wow, I'm amazed they're talking about this right now. They haven't even started filming. So basically, Tom Holland came out. He said, "Hey, welcome to cinema. Welcome. We don't have much to talk about, but here's the new title of the movie." And it was like, Spider-Man, Brand New Day. And I laughed my ass off. And people were like looking at me to ask me why. And I'm just kind of like, they are naming this movie after one of the worst creative decisions in the history of Spider-Man. And they want to remind fans, longtime Spider-Man fans, of this utter disastrous period in the character. And they're going to call it Brand New Day. That takes some chutzpah. Now, granted, technically, One More Day is what destroys the Spider-Man comics. Brand New Day just took place after that. So now, and that's when they got rid of the marriage and all that other nonsense that was going on back then. But the thing that makes that even that I thought about today was Those sneaky bastards. The last Spider-Man movie was actually One More Day. That's what that movie was. It was One More Day. Because the whole premise of One More Day is, someone he cares about dies. So he makes a deal with the devil to so that he could rehide his identity. He makes a deal with the devil, and he had to give up his marriage. This time, he gave up his friends, and Aunt May still died in the movies. So yeah, the last movie was One More Day. I knew there was a reason why I hated that movie, beyond the fact that I just hate Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I just kind of think he's not funny. He's more of a dick and a douchebag to everyone he encounters, and that was on full display. And what is it? No Way Home, No Way Out. I don't know. But in Spider-Man 3, I just hated Peter Parker so much. I never went back to watch that movie. The thing that saves that movie really is, the nostalgia of seeing Toby and Maguire back in the costume. That's what saved that's why that movie was kind of great. But for the most part, I hated that movie. I hated all the Tom Holland Spider-Man. I like him well enough as Peter Parker and as Spider-Man, but what they've done with the character in the MCU has been awful. Just awful. And I don't understand why he's so popular and why people love him so much in the MCU, because I think they just completely butchered the character. And I'm not looking forward to seeing on a Brand New Day. I'm hoping it's good. I hope every movie I see is going to be good, and I'm assuming I'll see it and I'll enjoy it for what it is. But I have no expectations for it. But it's coming out next June. Next June, actually. So that's at least coming out in 2026. We also got a really interesting movie called A Bit Bold, Beautiful Journey. And that's with Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell. And it's a really interesting romance movie. That's kind of like otherworldly, where basically the premise is they are falling in love by visiting each other's memories. So there's like this mystical car that kind of leads them to each other. Then they find this doorway that goes to nowhere, but when they open the door, it goes to different parts of their memory in their past, and you see them forming a relationship. It looks pretty interesting. I kind of dug it. I don't know if it's a movie I'm really super stoked to see, but it's one I would definitely eventually see. And that's coming out later this year. I don't know. I didn't catch the dates for anything because, again, we weren't allowed to take notes or anything. But that's coming out later this year. Then we got, and really that's about it. That's about it for the Sony presentation. I'm sure there are some things I'm missing, but those were the main things that I really cared about, and because I remembered them. So yeah, Sony presentation, I would say I would give that a C- or a D. There wasn't anything there that made me go wow. Then today we had a surprise twofer. Today was the Lionsgate presentation, and the problem with the Tuesday morning presentation is they mix it up with the house cleaning junk, and the house cleaning junk ruins everything every single year, and it's crushing. It is so crushing to sit there. So basically, it opened up surprisingly well. I was like, Neon came out and did a surprise presentation, and it was like, oh wow, we're not gonna get the hour long dribble crap that no one likes. And why they don't put that in its own separate presentation is beyond me. Well, I know why. No one would attend it. But so yeah, Neon came out, and they only talked about for 10 to 15 minutes, and they only talked about two movies. The first movie was The Life of Chuck with Tom Hiddleston, based on the Stephen King. That's Stephen King, man. he's busy. He's a busy boy. Because that's going to come into play in a few minutes. But he's a busy boy. So basically, Life of Chuck is based on a Stephen King novel, and it's actually produced by Steven Spielberg. And I don't know who the director is, but they but it's an interesting movie. It's about the journey of a character named Chuck, and it's from his childhood to his adulthood. There's another ethereal feel to it. I don't really know what the hook of the movie. I couldn't tell from the trailer what the hook of the movie was, other than the fact it was about this one kid's life's journey. And you see this one kid at different stages of his life. So obviously Tom Hiddleston plays an older version of Chuck, and it looks good. It looks like one of those uplifting, heartwarming kind of movies that maybe won't set the world on fire, but will be a nice, pleasant watch. And that's what I got from that trailer. That it was pleasant. It wasn't anything that made me go, "Wow, I must see this," but it was pleasant, and that's the best I could say. Then they showed Together, one of the freakiest looking movies I've ever seen. And it's with James. It's a horror movie with James Franco, and they made a point of saying, and his real life girlfriend Anna de Armas. I can't pronounce her last name, but I think it's Anna de Armas. So it's those two. They're playing a couple, and they're at the stage in coupledom where you're just used to each other. Things are boring. They're fighting a little bit, and then they go to this mystery house for some reason. And, I would never go to a mystery house in the woods. I just wouldn't. You tell me the house is in the woods, I'm not going. So never invite me to a house in the woods. I'm not going to do it. So they buy a house in the woods for some reason, and they go there, and suddenly, this movie reminds me a lot of the movie, what was the Substance. A lot of the imagery looked that grotesque like Substance, where basically as the trailer goes along, you see that their bodies are like meshing together in a horrible way, and there's this one sequence where like they're kissing each other, and it basically merges together, and they try to like separate, and then there's another sequence that's really grotesque where it's like the two they're looking at each other, and their two eyes are like popping out of the sockets and kind of trying to merge together. And then there's a scene where they're hugging, and I think their bodies are again trying to merge together, and they get a saw and they try. I'm not gonna lie, I want to see this movie, but I am not a fan of horror movies at all, and this movie looks intense. So I don't know. I don't know about this one. This is the type of movie I would probably have to watch at home with the lights on. But it was wow. It looked intense. So they get props for being like tight. They came in, they did their two movies, and they got out. Then the entire morning just went into the crapper at that point, because then that's when they went into the whole CinemaCon crap, and it lasted like a good 80 minutes, and these people would not shut the F up. It was like they gave the Vanguard Award to some guy, and it was basically like a 20-minute history of this guy's career at all these companies and why he's getting the Vanguard Award. And he came out and he spoke for 15 minutes. Then the president of the MPA, I just wanted to slap him because he was on for like 30. He was on for literally like 20 minutes. And it was all the same crap. They're talking about the theatrical window and browbeating everyone, saying, "Oh, streaming, you should not promote the fact that your movie is available on streaming when it's in the theaters. You should not do that. Bad distributors, bad studios, don't do that anymore. The theatrical window should be 45 days, and we need to get the audience used to 45 days." And it was like just a lot of browbeating, beating, and he was driving me nuts because he kept saying the same crap over and over and over for 20 or 30 minutes, and it's like the thing that buzzed me about CinemaCon. I love this convention. I get it that this is put on by the theater owners, but at some point they got to talk about why people don't want to go to the movies. Stop trying to browbeat people. And again, you're speaking to theater owners, so why are you telling theater owners about how your customers suck because they want to stay home? How about telling theater owners, hey, maybe people don't want to go to the movies because your experiences suck. Maybe people don't want to go to the movies because they don't want to see that goddamn AMC Nicole Kidman trailer for like the 100th time. I'm in your theater. I don't need you to convince me how great, AMC theaters are. I don't need you to convince me how great Dolby, Adobe Theater is. I'm in the theater. I paid my money. I want to sit there and enjoy the movie. I don't want to be preached to about how great the experience is and why I should support the theater. I'm supporting you by being here. I don't want to sit there and watch a 35-minute preview show. If you tell me a movie starts at 11 o'clock, I expect that movie to start at no later than 11:10 or 11:15. I don't want that 11 o'clock movie starting at 11:30 or 11:35. It just puts me in a bad mood. And I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. We're here at Cinema United. These are the things that they should be talking about. Not, oh, the theatrical window is killing our business and the shortened theatrical window is killing our business. I'm like, no, what's killing the business is like all these stupid things you guys are doing, and the fact that the movies just aren't good enough for where people want to come out and see them, especially when the home experience has gotten so good lately. Like, I have an 85-inch TV, and I was thinking about getting a 100-inch TV. And when you can get a 100-inch TV for $3,000, and you can get an experience that's just as good at home as you can in the theater, then you gotta step up your game to kind of make it worthwhile for people to go out and spend all that money, especially when budgets are tight. You can't just pick out one thing and constantly blame streaming. Like the last few years, it was all blaming streaming. Now this year, everyone's blaming the theatrical window. And I'm like, no, that is not why people are staying home. And yes, anecdotally, people say, hey, why go to the movies if I can see it in 3 or 4 weeks? But let's be real. That people would say that even if it was 3 months later. And also, if you're going to go to the movies, let the movies stay in the premium screens longer. For me personally, I find it frustrating when there's a big movie out and maybe I'm out of town or something, so for some reason I may not be able to make it to a movie on opening weekend. And by like Tuesday, that movie's no longer playing on the premium screens. It's playing on some crappy, smaller screen, that has like that isn't your premium experience. And if I'm paying money for a premium experience, I expect the premium experience. I don't want to pay like the same amount that I would pay for Dolby to see a movie in Dolby Theater or IMAX just to have it on a regular screen just because I didn't see it on opening weekend. So it's like let's fix the theatrical experience before you start browbeating people. Let's look inward, people. And sorry for the rant. It just buzzed me every year where basically they blame everyone else but trying to like kind of do but trying to like make the experience better. They want to force people back into the theater instead of the entire focus is basically trying to force people to go to the theater as opposed to making people want to go to the theater. And those are two separate things. And it just gets a little frustrating when every year at CinemaCon, the entire conversation is about basically how do we force people back in. Let's take away day and date. Let's take away the ability for families to buy something that's still a movie that's still in theatrical. It's all about basically kind of punishing the consumer and not improving the product to the point where you feel like you have to go. And that's my problem. So anyway, it was like an hour of that, and I was just getting really frustrated and really upset and really ticked off about it. And I really shouldn't have been. So eventually, Lionsgate came out, and it started off strong. It started off with Ballerina. So we got about 15 minutes of Ballerina, and I gotta say, I am looking forward to this movie. Although, I have to say, in real life, if you hit someone in the head with a baseball bat or iron pan, I don't care who you are, you're going to drop like a box of rocks. But it's like, in these movies, and in most action movies, especially when it's like a male action star, it's like, these guys can take like 20 hits to the head with their cast iron, with the baseball bat, or like, cast iron skillets. And they just keep going. And I'm like, come on. That's ridiculous. And that's why so many people are always like, oh yeah, if a woman is fighting, there's no way they could beat a man, and there's no way they can do all of that stuff. And I'm always sitting there going, there's no way any human being can take like more than 2 hits to the head with the baseball bat, or 1 hit to the head with the metal object. There's no human being that's gonna just kind of like just brush that off. But yeah, this fight scene they showed in this 10-minute clip was absolutely ridiculous, because it was like they're just welling on each other and like throwing people through tables and glass doors and hitting each other with like sharp plates with no blood or anything. It was just so like unbelievably realistic. It was unbelievably unrealistic, but it was cool. I'll give it that. It was cool. I'm not a huge fan of the John Wick movies, but it was pretty cool. And then so they showed that. Then they showed a clip of Keanu Reeves confronting her, wanting to kill her, being hired to kill her, and all this other stuff. So I'm consciously optimistic and excited to see this movie. It comes out in June. So they did that. Then they made some announcements about John Wick's future. So it's been confirmed that yes, John Wick 5 is going to happen with Keanu and the entire team. They're coming back to write the script and all this other stuff. So they're doing that. They're doing a spin-off movie with Donnie Yen's character. So they're going to start filming that in August or this summer. And basically Donnie Yen is going to write and direct the movie. So that should be pretty good. It's going to be based in Hong Kong, so a Hong Kong style action movie. And then after that, we also had we had a really cool movie called The Long Walk. It's a Stephen King movie with Mark Hamill and another guy and a young new guy that I don't know who he was, but it looks really creepy, appropriately creepy, because in the footage they showed, basically, it's some weird kind of reality game show where the whole premise is it starts with all of these people, and the goal is to be the last one walking. There's no endpoint or anything. So you just have to keep walking until you're the last one literally standing. And if you leave, if you stop walking for any reason, they shoot you and kill you. And it's basically it starts with like 30 kids or something, and by the end it's 30 kids just walking endlessly, and they have the military in front of them and the military in back of them, and Mark Hamill plays the bad guy, and he plays the bad guy. I guess maybe he's the head of the military or something. And the winner gets a huge prize. And it's creepy. It's a really creepy trailer, and I really liked it. We get my man Paul Feig, and then Paul Feig comes out. They talk about the housemaid, and it's a movie that's directed by Paul Feig, who I've always really liked a lot. He seems like he's a pretty nice guy to talk to, and I really love Charlie Brown. I'm sorry, I just love that movie to death. I never actually watched The Bridesmaid. I may have to watch that one day, but I like him. And basically, he has a movie starring Amanda Seyfried, and what is her name? She's the one. Something Seyfried. Like Amanda, it stars Amanda Seyfried, and then it also stars. Let me. What is her name? She's cheating on her husband, on her fiance with the guy from Top Gun. What is her name? You see, this is why I need a staff, people. I need a staff. So here, let me look her name up. Let's see, housemaid cast. Sydney Sweeney. So Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried came out along with Paul Feig and some guy. Some guy I never heard of, don't care about. So they came out and they talked about this movie Housemaid. And it's an interesting story because it is basically a tit-top book that, and what's a tit-top book? I never heard of a tit-top book. But it was a tit-top book based on a 3-part tit-top book that went viral, became hugely popular. And Amanda Seyfried said she read all 3 copies within a week. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this sounds like an interesting premise. They didn't really talk too much about the premise. And that was the thing about it. A lot of the stuff they showed at CinemaCon so far, it was like, I don't know if they did a good job with the trailers this year or if they did a frustrating job because none of the trailers really revealed much about any of these movies. But basically, it is a thriller movie, which is the first for Paul Feig because he normally does comedy. So this is a thriller about a woman who is hired to be a living nanny, and stuff goes down, and the male character is psychotic, and I think Amanda Seyfried's character is going to end up being evil or something. So I think there's supposed to be a lot of twists and turns, but it's basically about, it's kind of a mystery and a murder or something. The trailer really didn't tell us much, but it looks appropriately like creepy and thrillerish, and I kind of want to see it. This movie looks like it's right up my alley, but my problem with it is it's a 3-book series, so that means this is going to be probably a 3-movie series, and I am not thrilled about that. Oh, I forgot the really big news from last night. This reminds me. I'll come back to Lionsgate in just a second. The big news from last night is the Beatles. So, Sony announced that they're doing a 4-movie biopic. They're doing a brand new biopic of the Beatles, directed by Sam Mendes. And I am like, okay, how many movies about the Beatles do we need? How many super long documentaries about the Beatles are there in the last couple of years? A lot of them, and they're long. And I'm like, I don't really want to watch a single movie about the Beatles. I like the Beatles, but I don't feel like I need to see yet another biopic or another documentary about the Beatles for quite a while. So that was one thing. But then they said they're not going to do not one, but they're going to do 4 movies based on the Beatles. Because, each Beatle has their own life's journey. And they want to be able to tell the full story of each Beatle. So you're going to have John, Paul, Ringo, and George Harrison. I always forget George. Poor George. But so there's going to be 4 movies. One that's going to tell the life story about each of those and characters, and basically their viewpoint of when they meet and some of their life events from those different perspectives. But don't get confused. These movies will be about those individual characters, about their lives, their history, how they came to be, etc. And then when they intersect, they'll show the different perspectives. And I'm assuming once they break up, they'll probably show the different perspectives, the post breakup. So I'm guessing that's what that's going to be. And I'm like, oh my god, I have zero interest in this. They lost me when they told me they're going to split it up to 4 movies. Because remember when I said earlier, I'm tired of movies being glorified TV shows. Give me a movie that has a clear beginning, middle, end. I'm tired of these artificial franchises. But what makes this one even worse, they're doing all 4 movies they're filming all 4 movies at the same time, which is great because that means we're guaranteed an ending and we're guaranteed kind of a release schedule for these movies. And I'm like, okay, fine. But they said all 4 movies are going to be coming in April 2028. You heard that right. All 4 movies are going to be released in April 2028. It's going to be the first bingeable movie experience. And I'm like, my head kind of like exploded because the thing that most movie fans talk about and are against are binge watching. Binge watching's bad. Binge watching bad. Everyone's, all streaming services need to go back to weekly programming and all this other stuff. But those same people are sharing this stupid idea of binging a movie in a movie theater. That's one thing. And it just felt hypocritical too because Sony also was talking about the release window, how important the release window is. And I'm like, wait a second, you just spent like 10 or 15 minutes talking about how important the release window is, but now you're going to do like 4 movies, and you're going to release 4 movies at the same time in the same month? How is that going to help your release window situation? I don't know. It just seems stupid. Like they're going to cannibalize each other. And how many people are going to sit there and see 4 movies about the Beatles in 1 month? I think it would have been better to maybe do it stagger the release, like 1 every month or 1 every other month or something. But they're doing 4 in 1 month. I'm guessing they'll probably do one each week in April. But they could they call it bingeable, so they could just as easily release all 4 in 1 day. But that's going to mess up theaters because then that means your theater screen is going to be taken up by these 4 movies. I don't understand how this is going to fly, but it is. You don't have to worry about it for 3 years, so maybe they'll work something out. But I don't know. It makes no sense to me. So anyway, let's circle all the way back around to Lionsgate. So we talked about The Long Walk. We talked about Housemaid. We talked about Donnie Yen's spinoff, John Wick, and Ballerina. What's next? Now You See Me. Now You Don't. So Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Based on the quote-unquote hit franchise. So this is basically part 3 in the long-running in the franchise. That hasn't had a movie in about 10 years. So they're bringing back the old cast. So Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, and I can't think of his name. Oh, Jesse Eisenberg and the female lead. They're all coming back. So the original Horsemen of Magic are going to come back. Apparently they've had a falling out. So Eisenberg has to recruit some new blood. Oh, Morgan Freeman's coming back as well. So they have to recruit some new blood. And basically the premise is there's a rich family that are using blood diamonds to fund wars, and they basically want the 4 horsemen to steal that diamond. And I'm like, which is okay, but when did they become like a super spy organization? Because they weren't that in the first one. I didn't really see. I didn't bother to watch the second one. Maybe I'll watch the second one. But in this one, the four horsemen of the apocalypse are basically hired by some secret spy organization to work for them. They're like the Fast and the Furious at this point. So they go from like thieves thieves and rebels to kind of working for the man to kind of stop these evil people, this evil rich family. So the trailer looked decent. It's a movie I'll watch. It's not a movie I'm expecting great things from, but it's a movie I'll watch. And then after that, the director, because the director of that movie is also directing, the next Hunger Games movie. So we got a little bit of the new Hunger Games movie, the Hunger Games. What it? Let me see. It's called the new Hunger Game. The new Hunger Games movie is called Sunrise on the Reaping. It's actually a sequel to the Hunger Games that takes place several years later. So it's going to be pretty interesting. It's based on a book, obviously. The book just came out a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, it's been pretty popular. And a bit of news, it's great. They actually gave us a copy of the book. So when it came out, they gave us a copy of the book. I actually wanted a copy of Housemates too. If they're giving away books, give us that one as well. But yeah, we got a book. So that was pretty cool. So I'm going to read that. But yeah, it's called Sunrise on the Reaping. The director really didn't tell us anything about it other than that they're working on it. He flies out next week to do principal photography, starts principal photography and casting and all that kind of stuff. And it was kind of like, why even talk about it then? But the one thing they did do was they showed us the new animated logo, which looks really cool. The Hunger Games logos always looks really cool. I'm kind of on the franchise. It's a good franchise, but it's not something that I want to run out and see. And then after that, what else did we get? Oh, then we get the final movie. And I'm sure I'm probably missing some other things, but the final movie we're talking about was a movie called Hurry Up Tomorrow, and Jenny Ortega came out along with the director of that one. So they came out, talked about how, they were really excited to work with Abel. He's an internationally known star musician, and I'm sitting there going, I am old as hell, because who the hell is this Abel guy? So they kept talking about, Abel this, Abel that, Abel is great, Abel is creative, Abel is Abel. And I'm like, who the hell is this Abel? And Jenny was like, she really wanted to work with Abel. And I'm like feeling really old, because I feel like I should know who the hell Abel is, the way they were talking about this Abel guy. Then they showed the trailer and the footage of it, and I don't know what to make of it, because basically Abel plays he's a musician in real life, and then he plays a musician in this movie. So he's a musician who gets tangled up with Jenny Ortega's character, and Jenny Ortega is some psychopath who kind of kidnaps him and kind of tortures him, but apparently it's supposed to be for his own good. So is she really, was she hired by his manager to kind of set him straight, like a scare straight kind of thing, or who knows? The trailer was really weird and didn't really tell you much. It was okay. I don't know if it's a movie I'm excited about but then it's something interesting went out. So the lights went out at the end of that trailer, and then there's a live band that came up right after the trailer when the lights came back on. And you're like, well, this Abel guy's gonna come out. All right, so now I can find out who this Abel guy is. And then it's the Abel guy is The Weeknd. And I'm like, oh, okay, Abel, it's The Weeknd. Why not just say it's The Weeknd? That is his name. That's his stage name. No one knows who the F Abel is. So yeah, The Weeknd came out and he did like a 10-minute set, 15-minute set. And the cinema crowd was hyped. I was amazed. They were really hyped. And normally, that 9 o'clock slot is really brutal. And the crowd was quiet the entire night, but the entire morning, but yeah, he came on and yeah, he got the crowd hyped up, ready to rock, ready to go. And yeah, so The Weeknd did he did a new song. He did one of the new songs from the movie, and then he did another song, his classic song. I don't know the name of it, but the minute I don't know much about The Weeknd, but I know the song that he did, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't know he did this one. So yeah, it was good. Oh, the one movie I forgot to mention that I'm really excited for, Ashley, that I'm no holds barred excited for, is this movie called Power Ballad, and it's by James Carney. Is that his name? I love this director to pieces. I'm looking up the director. Who's the director? What is his name? What is his name? John Carney. I love him to pieces because he did two of my all-time favorite movies. He did Once and Sing Street. If you haven't seen Sing Street, you are sleeping, people. You are sleeping. Go run out and see Sing Street right now because I love that movie so much. I've only watched it once. I need to watch it again when I go home. But yeah, Sing Street is awesome. I love that movie. So anyway, he has a new movie out called Power Ballad with my man Nick Jonas. It's with Nick Jonas and Paul Rudd. And basically, Nick Jonas is playing basically himself. He's playing a former boy band superstar. Who wants to change his sound, and he meets Paul Rudd, who's been a long time kind of like garage band musician who really wants to kind of hit it big, but it's never worked out for him. So somehow he ends up being a wedding singer he becomes a wedding singer at Nick Jonas's party, and they bond and have a good time at the wedding, and he plays some music for Nick Jonas's character, and they really hit it off, and Nick Jonas loves the music, and then he ends up stealing one of his songs. So then the movie ends up becoming a hit. So at that point, Paul Rudd is really upset, and it's all about Paul Rudd, trying to prove that Nick Jonas's character stole the song. And I love this trailer so much. I loved it so much. And yeah, so this was so far probably my favorite trailer of CinemaCon. So far it was Power Ballad. So yeah, that's it for CinemaCon. I would give the Lionsgate presentation a 9. They had a lot of stuff I was actually interested in that intrigued me. So I was excited for it. The thing that kind of takes away is that 1 hour slog you have to go through just to get to that presentation. Because by the time you get to it, it's like I just felt beaten down. I was so tired, and I didn't sleep at all last night. I was so tired and just wanted it to end at that point. But yeah, that's CinemaCon day 1, day 2 in the morning. Tonight we get Warner Brothers presentation, and I'm not doing anything tonight, so I'll probably do a wrap up of Warner Brothers tonight. So anyway, watch that. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you stayed this far, give yourself a clap and a pat on the back. Give me a like and give me a subscribe. I never ask for that kind of stuff, but apparently I have to ask it, or you guys won't do it. So hit that like, hit that subscribe, and tell me what movies you are looking forward to watching in the next few months. So anyway, talk to you guys later. bye. Can I hide this? Do this while I stand up to turn off the camera. So anyway, talk to you guys later. Bye. Ow! That hurts, people. My bones are crickety. Wow, 55 minutes.